The question of paying taxes. A couple of years ago, I was in Kentucky, my home state, and a woman whose husband was a coal miner but had been unemployed said, "This year was so bad we didn't have to cheat on our taxes." One of the big questions about this text is, what is Jesus saying when Jesus says, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's"? Do we live in two different systems? And you put your Caesar file over here and you do right by it, and you put your God file over here and you do right by it. Many people have interpreted it that way. Business is business. And you, as long as you have your faith, your spirituality set, you can have your political life, your economic life completely separate. You know, there are times when people have felt in order to be faithful to God, they had to disobey the law. What do we think about those people in Massachusetts 150 years ago who worked on the Underground Railroad? Some of them in West Newton. They did not render unto Caesar obedience. There are people today, there are Mennonites. Do you know Mennonites won't pay their taxes because they feel it supports war and they're pacifists? These are big questions that often people have felt compelled because of their faith to disobey Caesar. This is an interesting case. I can't sort all that out for you today. I have to leave that up to your conscience. You have to decide when your faith is in contradiction to the law. I can't decide that for you this morning. In this text, the Pharisees, it says, wanted to entrap Jesus. They said, "Teacher," and then they laid it on thick. "We know you're sincere. We know you teach the way of God. We know you show no partiality. Because we know that you think the widow with her mite is as or more important than the philanthropist with his foundation. We know, Jesus, we've seen you with children, and you've said, 'Let them come to me. They're more important to me than the big shots.' So we know, Jesus, you show no partiality." So they said, "What do you think about giving money to Caesar?" They were hoping Jesus would say, "Don't give Caesar money," and then they'd have a reason to get him in trouble. So Jesus took a coin. And I don't have any coins anymore. You like me? You never carry coins around? We used to carry coins around. Does anybody have a coin just right here? There's not one in the offering plate. Will you just pretend there's a coin here? Jesus looks at it and says, "Okay, what's on the coin?" Here's what was on a denarius in those days. It read, well, you want it back? Here's what was on the denarius. It said, "Tiberius Caesar Augustus Filius Augustus." Tiberius Caesar Augustus Filius Augustus. Tiberius Augustus Caesar, that was his name. Tiberius Augustus, first name, last name. Caesar. Caesar means emperor, like czar. Filius Augustus, son of Augustus. And Augustus was thought to be divine. So it essentially said son of God. Tiberius, son of God. So Jesus' answer to them is, render to Tiberius, the emperor, the thing that bears his image. Render to God what? This is a fill-in-the-blank moment. Yes, but no. But what if this bears the image of Caesar? What bears the image of God? We do. Our entire selves. Give Caesar his image. Give God yourself. Because you bear God's image. We need offering plates the size of jacuzzis. And I don't even know how we would engineer it. We'd have to bring them down the center aisle. Huge, massive pools, baskets. And you'd have to just climb in. There is a part of you that belongs to God. There's a part of you that can't be bought or sold. There's a part of you that holds all the other parts together. Grown-ups, hey, I got everyone's attention there. You all answer to the term grown-up. The divine image in you is a part of you that has never changed. It's a part of you you can remember from what? When you were 12? When you were 10? It's a part of you you have known ever since. And children, even though they're not here with us this morning, the divine image in them is a part of them that isn't their mommy or daddy, but is uniquely them. These are not two equal kingdoms, to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to give to God what belongs to God. Because you give Caesar this, you give God everything. It is interesting to think about this money, though. You know, the money only works if someone accepts it. You can't eat it. It actually will not keep you warm at night. Our money is only good if everyone else agrees that it's good. The whole system of money operates on the basis of trust. And if we were to neglect the poor so severely that there was great instability in our culture, that money that some of us imagine insulates us and protects us would be worthless. And there have been times in human society where a wheelbarrow full of money couldn't buy you a loaf of bread. We live using this money, not realizing it's only good as long as there's trust, as long as there's faith, as long as there's enough stability that people will play with it, will accept it, will honor it. So what do we give to God? We give ourselves. Now this morning, I want us to think some about that part of us that belongs to God, that image of God that's inside us. And this week, the aspects of that have really spoken to me are related to Mother Olga. Do you all remember Mother Olga? So this week I got to see Mother Olga. It was the 3rd anniversary of her convent in Chestnut Hill behind the Star Market on Route 9. The Daughters of Mary of Nazareth. That's the name of her group. And they had a big fancy dinner. And the cardinal came. And the cardinal celebrated a mass. And all those good Catholic people there were so excited. And it was an interesting moment for me, too. When I went up, I didn't accept communion. But I did go up and I asked for a blessing from the cardinal, and he gave me one. But I just didn't know if they really wanted an old Baptist, spilling crumbs on the Eucharist table. And Ray Flynn was there. Ray Flynn, working the crowd. He went up to every person there and shook their hand and said hello, as if he still needed votes. It was amazing. So Mother Olga, I almost said Mother Teresa. Mother Olga explained to us, again, the story of the Daughters of Mary of Nazareth. What does it mean to bear the image of Nazareth? In the Gospel of John, I think it's in chapter 1, a man named Nathanael says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Nazareth was a kind of podunk. Nazareth was Hicksville. Nazareth was nowhere. Nazareth was Hooterville. When the Roman soldiers wanted to make fun of Jesus, they put on his cross, Jesus of Nazareth. I'm trying to imagine what we would compare it to. Some of you old-timers in Needham might say, Jesus of Poleville. Say, what? From Poleville? In the historical record, Nazareth is never mentioned, except for the Gospels, until 200 AD. Nazareth is never mentioned once in the Old Testament. Nazareth never made the papers. Nazareth never made the 6 o'clock news. Nothing ever happened in Nazareth. Nothing ever came out of Nazareth. You don't expect anything from Nazareth. And Nazareth is where Jesus lived for 30 of those 33 years. Nazareth is where the incarnation had its debut. Nazareth is the power of God when no one is around taking notes. Nazareth is the power of God when no one is looking. Nazareth is the image of God manifesting itself in being a good neighbor, in doing honest work in a carpenter shop, in being a devoted family member. Nazareth is where Jesus honored the temple of his body by growing up healthy. There are no miracles recorded for all those 30 years. And yet, that part of Jesus' life was as holy as any other part, as necessary. And Mother Olga's group is dedicated to the idea that we will do little things in the name of Jesus. We will be good neighbors. We will do honest work. We will greet people. We will notice people. We will be engaged in the holiness of everyday life. That is the Nazareth image of God. You know, Needham has some connections to Nazareth because Needham is the home of Saint Joseph's. And Joseph was a Nazareth dude. This church has had a lot of Josephs in it. Men who worked with their hands, men who were carpenters or contractors, men who gave honest work, men who took pride in their work, who imagined in their work they were working for God, who treated every client, every project as if it were a family member's. This church has had lots of Marys in it. And Mary is Nazareth all the way. This church has had so many people I've heard about, so many Marys who visit the sick, who are looking out for their neighbors, who love the children in their lives, even if they're not related to them. This is a place where you understand Nazareth. You understand the spirituality of Nazareth. And that is the image of God I want to highlight this morning. In the Nazareth style of spirituality, no miracles are recorded except the daily miracle of living awake. Awake to the presence of God in prayer. Awake to the image of God in other people. And awake to the beautiful task of seeing every event in your life as a parable. Every event in your life as a parable, that if you sit with it and interpret it, you will find a gem of wisdom. Everything. That's the holiness of everyday life in Nazareth. It's not the light coming down from heaven like Paul had on the road of Damascus. In Nazareth, it's just everyday's light that gives us the ability to read the signs of grace all around us. Nazareth life is the way we greet people. It's the way we go about our business. It's the way we go about our recreation. It's the way we live and move and have our being. Nazareth life is to live God aware. Awake. How are you feeling about yourselves today? We did have those beautiful children, Caitlin and Charlie, here. You know, Jesus said once, if you want to come to the kingdom, you got to be like one of those kids. And of course, that's a great puzzle. What did that mean? What's the aspect of those children that is so special? One thing about children I think is so special is they are fully themselves. If they're hungry, they let you know. If they're happy, they let you know. And of course, when you're young parents, you're probably taking this for granted, but you have this special power. You'll never have it again, where you probably understand every little thing they do. You get it. You have a mind meld with them. But you know what? As we grow older, we grow many different selves inside us. As we grow older, we find ourselves sometimes not liking ourselves, mad at ourselves, ashamed of ourselves. We can have one part of us inside that doesn't like another part of us inside. As we age, we get divided. Paul was maybe the world's most articulate spokesman of this. He says, the things I want to do, I don't do. The things I don't want to do, I do. I got all these voices, all these personalities. And the thing I think about the children then is they're still one. It may not always be great, but they aren't divided yet. And the medicine of grace, and we sang about Amazing Grace. The medicine of grace is that in adulthood, you could regain a unified self. You could come to peace with all those parts inside you. You could stop the argument between this voice and that voice. You could have a peace that passes rational understanding. Where would that peace come from? It comes from the image of God inside you. Because there's a part of you that God planted in you, that understands you, that forgives you, that says, I know what you did, and I know why you did it, and now this other part of you is forgiving you, is letting go of that. Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. I want you to imagine the image of God in you as that part of you. That part of you that is good and lovely and pure and admirable. Now, I know none of us are all those things all the time, but that's in us. And we should dwell in that part, in our core, in our center, and let that be like a well of living water that pours out over all the rest of us and says, you are my beloved child. You are made in my image. And that's the self we are being asked to give back to God. Render to Caesar. I will give you this back after all. What's Caesar's? But to God, and she timed it perfectly, give that Nazareth, everyday, beautiful self.